So let's start reassembling this thing. And something that a lot of people screw up, they might keep their valves all nice and in order right here. And then when it's time, so I'm working like left to right here, just like I'm working left to right here. Then when it's time to put them in and they flip the horn over, they forget that their left to right just completely switched. So before I had number one, the first valve is on my left side, flip it over, now the first valve's on my right side. So be careful to not make that mistake. Now, so I kept everything in order. Say you forgot to, or some kid comes by and gets everything all messed up. How do you know which one goes in which casing? And is it important? The answer is yes, it is definitely important. So if these got messed up for some reason, there should be a number on it somewhere. Like that, number 2 right there. And then the bearing is even important because they're fit to the rotors. So those should have a number. These are kind of nice. They put a nice big number right on it. Once in a while you will see really, really stupid systems that are just like 1 will have 1 dot, 2 will have 2 dots. I've seen some that are slashes. The slashes are so small you can't tell if it's supposed to be a slash or if it's just a scratch on the rotor or on the bearing. And that's especially hard to tell if you think it might be number 1 because it's just going to be 1 little slash. So is that just 1 slash or is it a scratch? 2 and 3 are a little easier at least because you can see 2 kind of similar looking slashes or 3 similar looking slashes right next to each other. So that's a horrible system. So keep them organized and keep them in order if at all possible. So I'm going to start out with number 1, which is now on the other side for putting it back in. And I want to lubricate this. This is one of the crucial times to lubricate it because these rotors don't come out very often. So this is the time to get some really good lubrication in there. And I like something synthetic and something that comes in with a needle oiler. So it's much easier to deliver the lubrication right where you need it. And I like Hetman. That's my favorite. Yamaha makes some good stuff too. There's a few other good things out there. I really recommend something synthetic though. Anything petroleum based, these cheap things that probably were in your tech horn cases, they're not that good. We have like 500 bottles of them, so I'm going to use them up before I get better stuff. But yeah, not that good. And when you see cheap stuff like that, it might say valve oil or a very similar thing looking like saying slide oil, or it might even say rotor oil. When it's the cheap 99-cent stuff like this, I almost guarantee that it's the exact same lubricant in each one. You could use the slide on valves, no problem. You could use this valve on a hand slide, no problem. Wouldn't make a difference. But neither one's very good, so I would recommend getting bearing and linkage oil and rotor oil from Hetman. So start out with the bearing and linkage, and this is going to go at the top and at the bottom of the valve. Right? So putting some right around the spindle there. And I'm going to drop it in. And I'm constantly checking as I reassemble the horn, constantly checking to make sure nothing's binding up. Because I don't want to get all the way to the end, put the strings on, and then realize that the rotors aren't rotating. So every step I'm checking. So all I did was drop that rotor in, and I'm already checking it just to make sure there's nothing wrong with the valve or the casing. Everything seems pretty good. So now I'm going to drop some more bearing and linkage oil right around that little spindle sticking up right there. Then I'm going to take the bearing, I'm going to check the witness mark right there, and there should be a witness mark on the casing right there. I am going to make sure those are pretty well lined up. Hopefully you can see that right there. And then I'm just going to take my rawhide mallet. And remember this tool that we made. Finally, hey, what is that thing for? That is going to go over the top of the bearing, and that's what we're going to use to put even pressure on the whole bearing as we tap it into place. Again, remember, we got to check every step. That could have gone in a little bit crooked, a little bit sideways. I really don't know. So I'm going to check it, and okay, we're good. The rotor's moving, no problem. Yeah, moving nice and freely in there, so we're good. Then I'm going to put the cap on it. Remember what we do, 2 threads. Want to grease the threads. It's like taking out some insurance to make sure that if this cap doesn't get taken off for 5 years, you're still going to be, it's not going to be stuck. You're going to be able to pull it off because the threads there are greased. And you want to do that on every brass instrument when you're assembling or disassembling. Trumpet caps, finger buttons on a trumpet, pretty much anywhere that it screws together on a brass instrument, just apply a little bit of slide grease to those threads. Make your life a lot easier. So I'm going to go through and do the next 2 valves, and then we'll go on to stringing.